Been a while since we did a dive into some cartoons. Close to 6 years since my 10 zombie episodes in cartoons video. While there are plenty more zombie-centric episodes in animation out there, I wanted to dive deeper into zombie and zombie-adjacent stories in animation that are honestly super interesting, and would be really cool if explored or set in a more serious universe for a full-length film or series, something to just expand on it. Today, I wanted to hop into the amazing World of Gumball, a series in multi-mixed media animations and honestly a pretty humorous watch through. One episode in particular stuck out to me. Why obsess over zombies that mutilate you or viruses that turn you into murderous psychopaths when you can just have a virological agent tell you, "Stop being sad, just smile, bro"? What would be so bad about the Uno reverse card of the rage virus? What would make us break out into a Pharrell Williams song while vomiting copious amounts of the gay agenda? Dude, that's so bad. Today, we are discussing when a cartoon made a terrifying zombie virus. The Joy from Gumball.
There's a disease spreading through the school.
What? What do you mean?
An outbreak. An outbreak of joy.
This message is sponsored by Raycon. Joy might be dangerous in today's scenario, but let me tell you how you could bring a little joy to your ears and bones. Raycon's bone conduction headphones are super cool and look neat as hell as they use off-ear audio sending sound through vibrations in your bones. Amazing for people like me who love to headbang to some Megadeth, Dimmu Borgir, KMFDM, Black Sabbath, or Gorillaz. No matter how hard I give myself a self-induced concussion, the bone conduction headphones stay glued, figuratively, to my ears, fitting snugly on my giant-ass head with no issues. Great for working out too, without worrying about them flying off or popping out since it's a one-bud-fits-all device. They have 13 hours of battery life and are IP68 waterproof and dust-proof, so no stressing over sweating, raining, or getting sand caught up all in them. Delivering premium performance devoid of that premium price tag, and if you're not totally satisfied, Raycon offers a 30-day happiness guarantee. I use Raycon's bone conduction headphones and you should too, using them wherever I go for top tier music blasting and to listen to myself get stuff wrong on older videos. Both ironically in conjunction for 28 years later, The Bone Temple jam those movies out on them too. So get your bone on, as the bone conduction headphones are here to help you go for the gold. Click the link in the description or go to buyraycon.com/wowsuchgamingbc to get 15% off. Thanks Raycon for sponsoring today's video. We all experience the dreadful boredom of facing the monotony of life. It's soul-crushing, body-deteriorating, mind-numbing, and worst of all, it's so boring. Many people dealing with working a 9 to 5 only to barely have any time to do more in life. Going to school just to get a few hours of gaming. Barely little to do what excites you or gets you pumped up. This was the case for two young boys, Gumball and Darwin. When preparing for the drudgery of yet another school week on a Monday morning, they were stopped at their front door by their father, Richard Watterson. Hoping to cheer both of his sons up, he delivers what was known as a wonder hug. Direct physical contact, imbued with all the positive affirmations and visualizations conceived by man, harnessed into one simple touch, causing an explosion of various colors and rainbows and accidentally infecting his biological and adoptive sons. How this disease originated from Richard Watterson is unknown, but it is possible it could have something to do with what is called the pseudobulbar effect, or PBA. Referred to as emotional incontinence, this neurological condition can usually cause an individual to uncontrollably laugh, cry, scream, or more, usually only in short but frequent bursts without changing much in one's outward behavior, typically attributed to possible lesions in the corticobulbar tract of the brain, leading to disruption or even total failure of regulation of voluntary control of emotions, often associated with victims of strokes, brain injuries, and those suffering from all types of dementia. In this case, it seems to be a virological prion that evades the brain swiftly after direct physical contact, acting in a similar fashion to the disorder except focusing solely on positively placed mental attributes. How this stemmed from a stay-at-home, low IQ hunk of an individual like Richard Watterson is not apparent. It could be that in his many escapades and journeys that he contracted rabies, but due to his unique physical and mental makeup that he caused the virus to mutate within his own body, making him immune to the disease that warped within him, but inadvertently starting causing something else entirely. Again, like the 28 days later rage virus, whereas in that, it was mutating rabies in lab chimps, exposing them to violent media until they developed a psychosis that put people into a non-stop crazed state. Yet now, instead of clockwork oranging simians to copious amounts of brutal media, we have a loving father giving his children copious amounts of love that eventually reaches a simian, creating two patient zeros that at first will only outwardly display scant symptoms as they go to school as part of their everyday behavior. By 9:01 a.m., Darwin displayed a main outward symptom of a gigantic smile from ear to ear, or gill to gill, that could not be altered in any way. Gumball, on the other hand, would be shown to be clicking his heels in excitement until he too would have his adoptive brother's permeating smile spread across his face. Within the next hour, would these smiles grow even larger, both children starting to sing out loud, singing in kind of an auto-tune fashion, and laughing maniacally over just the simplest of things, these simple triggers with little to no control over themselves, lending to the idea of the pseudo-bulbar effect, with notably multicolored bile beginning to vomit out in small amounts from their mouths. The only person noticing these symptoms being the overly pessimistic, negative, and overall angry individual and teacher, Miss Simeon. Attempting to bring alarm to this infection, the school principal brushes her off with her wild accusations, then bringing Gumball and Darwin to the school nurse to get to the bottom of it, thinking it's a disease. The nurse too waves off her notions by saying they are just children being happy, nothing at all to worry about, especially considering they are well known to be wild and go-lucky in nature. Miss Simeon counters this by asking the young men to attempt to stop smiling. Gumball does so by literally turning his smile upside down for a while, but the attempt causes his face to distort horrifically to force it back to its original smile. Infected individuals will become extremely dilated and give what is nothing short but a vacant, lifeless stare. Those infected with this, what Miss Simeon would only label as
Joy.
will begin to view the world in a very hallucinogenic state, seeing Miss Simeon as a cuddly monkey and the nurse as a candy cane, with Darwin even seeing his brother as a blue, hyper-realistic cat with human lips. While these characters are already animated in a wild and different fashions, this does show how much the virus manipulates one's mind, changing the world in front of them, again, like the rage virus. While we, the audience, hear Miss Simeon just calling out to them and saying,
Hello, is anyone there?
Darwin and Gumball interpret this as her asking for a kiss. Trying to get your teacher arrested, bro. The virus is already attempting to force its victim to try and spread itself through infectious methods. Whereas the rage virus did so through bodily fluids like blood and saliva, this one is through direct physical touch and a specific bodily fluid. The teacher quarantines both children in the hopes to discover a promising piece of evidence of their diseased nature, and then the school nurse rushes off to report her for abusing students to satiate her own paranoid delusions. While observing them, we can see they are basically lifeless. Without a potential victim to attempt to show love and care towards, the boys enter a dormant state, not doing anything whatsoever, just laying there, staring blankly with only a large, toothy grin. Eventually, after enough time has passed, will the victims begin to convulse and frantically cackle, and then suddenly die, their heart rate monitors flattening, where the victims will either enter a brief heart stop state or being clinically dead. Regardless, their heart rates will suddenly come back up, but then begin to depict wavy rainbows, and the heartbeat beeps will be replaced with a pleasant melody, but their bodies will mimic being dead for a brief period. It's upon this reanimation that they will display the fully transformed and final stage of the virus, completely sterile in expression except that mindless smile, targeting anything that does not outwardly display extremely positive demeanors. It was here that Principal Brown would be attacked, or hugged, by the two joyful students. The students were now producing this rainbow bile exponentially through their mouth, and while not depicted, their engagement with Principal Brown had only been under 3 seconds. I guess they were hugging and maybe kissing him, maybe that's why it was off-screened, but the rainbow bile splattering everywhere as the student body leader survivor rose up covered in their multicolored chemical, transformed and infected into what was the last stage of the virus in that short amount of time, blissfully in a trance-like state, walking like the generic stereotype of a zombie, profuse amounts of rainbow bile coming from each of their mouths. Even the principal, Joy, had completely taken control of their minds and bodies. Miss Simeon, seeing the writing on the wall, throws the nurse into their loving arms, turning our band-aid of a woman into Nurse Joy. The transmission method and infection time is ridiculously busted and horrific. In that short time frame, does a person go from fully normal and healthy to a mindless joy zombie? Most likely due to lingering in the boys' bodies till bile could sufficiently be produced to create a super transmitter. Regardless, if touched or the bile gets on or in you, your psyche will be completely enveloped in a family-friendly version of a drug trip, and you are looking to spread the love. Now, physical touch isn't just you being grabbed or poked. It has to be a physical touch with the intent of a loving or caring motion, like a hug or kiss. So less biting and more kissing and hugging. Think if Barney the dinosaur was in charge of making the next zombie apocalypse. At this point, they will go out and spread the infection as rapidly as possible, hugging, kissing, and vomiting on anyone they can find. While some creatures in this universe are nothing more than balloons, it shows that even those without any limbs or appendages can infect others, bumping into them to spread it in less than a second. It means that there has to be intent in emotion. All infected will go brain dead, mesmerized, and leak skittle water. They are not completely zombie-like in nature though, retaining some of their memories to target people they held strong affections for before, even harming other infected to have a victim to themselves if that is the case. They don't always stick to a simple stilted walk either. When looking to go after a survivor, will some fully sprint at them at full speed to get the job of infection done. This transformation into a joy zombie does not mutate the body to become faster, stronger, or nullify pain receptors like normal zombie outbreaks do, as shown when one of the coaches of the school was shown to be pursuing a victim with a horde of other zombies just to stop every few feet to wheeze and cough up bile, meaning their stamina is not there and that the physical traits and status of their current health will carry over into their infected bodies, showing that this may not mean that they are dead, but are just infected. They are living beings still. Some will put themselves in situations that will lure healthy survivors towards them. Anais did so by sitting in a corner and doing what appeared to be crying to themselves, in a very similar fashion to that of Left 4 Dead's witch. It's only human nature or multimedia nature to go and try to help a young child. Now, once a survivor draws close enough asking if they need help, will a crying joy zombie show that their crying was nothing more than suppressed laughter and attack. Some will even hide themselves in discreet areas like dark alleyways or dark corners or just in lockers and other stuff, awaiting any non-joyful people that may come by to attack and infect them. But what is most horrific of all is that the joy is capable of polluting and putting a forced smile on any and all living beings on the planet. Any animal, human, and even plant could harbor and spread the disease. Even if not actually deadly, the mind-altering state of the virus and its transfer method and rate to anything is one to send colorful shivers down one's spine. There are answers to this overnight pandemic. When one student by the name of Tobias willingly put himself in harm's way just to be touched by other people, the infected student population simply ignored him.
Tobias!
Not because he is an incel deprived of attention, but because of his color scheme. Tobias has a natural rainbow pattern across his body, acting as a natural camouflage to the infected since their body now naturally produces the same color bile, possibly the virus informing the host that the individual they are after is a fellow infected, discerning that the color pattern is from others already puking over their body. Color recognition plays an important part in disguising oneself from these joy zombies, that and mimicking their facial patterns and mannerisms as well. Miss Simeon had shown this when she had to maneuver through an infested school grounds by herself, having to force a smile against her body's will, using language that gave positive affirmations, and overall pretend to be a joy zombie, much like that scene in Shaun of the Dead where Sean's group act like zombies and go completely under the radar, even though physical symptoms are not shown on them whatsoever. Sean being bodily rot, cloudy eyes, and distinct smells. Gumball being colorful spit up, dilated eyes, and groaning. These zombies are extremely easy to fool with just a drop of forethought, but that does not lessen their deadliness. If you break character or show anything that is kind of negative in any way, they will all know and congregate on you in seconds flat. Even if you were to like stub your toe in front of them and go, "Oh, damn," that would tell them that you are not infected. Everything is happy with them no matter what. Now, the one true way to cure one of having joy is through auditory methods, supposedly. Only one infected was ever shown to supposedly be cured, having been Principal Brown. When Miss Simeon flew into a blind rage, tearing up her office thinking all was over, she accidentally hit play on her own tape recorder, playing Beethoven's Moonlight Sonata, the famously depressing and sad tone of the classical composition being the natural enemy of joy, with Principal Brown's dilated pupils shrinking and him running off in fear just from the sheer sound of this music, possibly returning to normal and being frightened at being placed in an unknown situation. He came back into consciousness and freaked out because he didn't know what was going on. That, or joy infected simply run away from anything that is deemed too overtly depressing or anti-joyous. Either way, it was headway in countering the illness. Miss Simeon attempts to play the classical music over the school's PA system, the only way of her escaping and destroying joy in the schools. However, her journey would be in vain, as in the last few seconds before she could play the tape over the intercom and end this all, would the infected Gumball and Darwin emerge from the darkness of the room she was in to ambush her, getting her to the ground and hugging her as she slowly felt the influence of joy seep into her mind. While others before her took only a few seconds to turn from direct exposure, Miss Simeon had at least over 15 seconds to log her final thoughts. This could be that because of her naturally negative mindset that she was more resistant to the joy virus, but not immune, completely turning as the cameras cut off, leaving the fate of the world unknown. But what we can make of the virus, and if it were in our world, is one of rapid mind alteration, mass hysteria and panic, and eventually widespread death. Being what some would say discreet in its first initial carriers, many wouldn't pay any mind to some of the people that were being overly happy. Some may give the joy patient zeros an annoyed look or avoid them, but just considering them annoying people just being a little too brain rotted. But certainly not to believe they were carrying an infectious illness. Now, if given the span of just 6-7 hours, the first victims will incubate the virus long enough to fully mutate it. Once this occurs, stopping joy to the world will be nearly impossible, and Lord has it come. Merely hugging, smooching, caressing, or even bumping with happy intent could turn a normal person into a rainbow-spewing joy zombie. This spread alone would be uncontrollable and spread like wildfire. Anything that these eventually titled huggers came into contact with would be an immediate biohazard. People, animals, and even plants alike, all losing any sense of directive in their natural state except to mindlessly be happy and try, nay, always spread only joy. People and animals will no longer hunt for or gather food or drink water, just constantly spew bile generated by the body, wasting energy at a constant rate, wearing down the body with no means of consumption. These are literally the rage zombies before 28 years later allowed them the ability to eat and drink before they adapted to continue the franchise 28 years later. These joy zombies have no means to survive long term, expelling more energy from their constant multicolored vomit till the body will eventually shut down completely. No colorful heart monitor rhythms are saving the body from total exhaustion, dehydration, and starvation. All that puke and rainbows is going to tally up. Now, how would a plant spread joy, you might ask? Well, since they are not really sentient to do what other life may do, they could see to pulling something like what happened in The Happening, making these plants release spores or airborne chemicals to be inhaled by all life to induct them them into this harmonious new world. You might say joy is in the air. These airborne particles could access the brain and do what was being done through the virus to create the pseudo-bulbar effect in the brain. For people or creatures with a tendency to hostile behavior or negative traits, they could hold off turning into a joy zombie for a longer but still brief period. There is no total immunity to the virus, just prolonging the inevitable. The influence of joy would be too overwhelming for anything and everything that is alive. Everything would bear a forced smile that would only serve to strengthen these creatures. What's that old trivia bit that you use tons of muscles to smile? Countermeasures of depressing or sad tones in music could be played to attempt to alleviate symptoms or cure the virus outright. But this revelation would probably come much too late for a majority of the population, and it is not even guaranteed if it stops the virus or momentarily just gives you your consciousness back. The only thing we ever saw of it was Principal Brown coming back to his own, only to run away and never be seen again. Hell, some joy zombies may seek to setting up loudspeakers to play only happy music to drown out anything remotely sad or pessimistic, maybe destroying records of anything sad in general. No matter where you go though, joy zombies will most likely crop up, eventually flooding the streets and all living beings indoctrinated into what would only be pure bliss to them, not knowing that their bodies will be rotting pretty soon, being puppeted as they approach others, thinking that other people are some whimsical version of themselves. These illusions beckoning to be loved in any physical form, and you will be obliged to console any physical form, until the very plants begin to dilute the air with love particles, so no matter what, even if you breathe, you will feel the love tonight, plunging the world into extinction. No matter where you go, there will be a living being looking to hug you, kiss you, bump you, anything. The air you breathe, it'll be like the sweet tarts entering your lungs and you becoming a sweetheart. Everything will look to give you joy, with all that's left being your last thoughts and sights experienced by everything else on the planet being one thing: joy. And at the end of a long road, there will not be darkness, but every color of the bow, man. You can try to put on some rainbow camouflage, but happiness will eventually find you. The fortune cookie always says so anyways.
The cookie told me so.
That about wraps up this look into, quite frankly, what is some of the most terrifying Why You Wouldn't Survive scenarios I've covered. I know I've said that before, but if you really think about it, the rainbows are coming to get you. What do you think? Is there something I missed or should have explained more? Let me know down below and what you want to see next. Make sure to support the channel by contributing to me on Patreon as a patron, or becoming a YouTube channel member, or tipping in a buck or two over on my second channel, WSG Streams, during my weekly live streams of Left 4 Dead 2, where we play with friends and fans. If you donate on any of those mediums, you can be on this list that is already going by right now. Until next time, I'm Zach Cass, aka Wowsuch Gaming. Never forget to stay happy, stay happy, stay happy, stay happy, and stay happy, and most importantly, stay happy.
Happy, happy, joy, joy, happy, happy, joy, joy. Happy, happy, joy, joy, happy, happy, joy, joy. Happy, happy, joy, joy, happy, happy, joy, joy. Happy, happy, joy, joy, joy.
I don't think you're happy enough. That's right. I'll teach you to be happy. I'll teach your grandmother to suck eggs.